Olá, bom dia Lisboa. Eu sou Rodrigo Loureiro, parti daqui de Lisboa já há cerca de 25 anos, radicado nos Estados Unidos desde essa altura, sempre a trabalhar na área de tecnologia, sempre a trabalhar na área de cibersegurança. Uma grande experiência em termos de consultoria e trabalho ao C-Level, de C-Level Executives com empresas públicas americanas. Hoje em dia estou mais focado em termos da educação, em termos da comunicação, análise das tendências de segurança, trabalhando também com startups e projetos de cibersegurança. E porque nem só de trabalho e de cibersegurança se faz o mundo, também tenho a minha paixão das bicicletas. Tenho uma non-profit onde tento divulgar o amor pelas bicicletas, o estado com a natureza e o estado de sempre de saúde física e saúde mental. Também tenho um livro sobre a adaptabilidade, estou a preparar o seguinte e estou, digamos assim, no circuito a trabalhar com a InnoWave e a dar clarity aqui para providenciar os serviços de gestão de segurança e de estratégia de segurança. Vamos agora mudar um pouquinho para o inglês, para na parte técnica e na parte do negócio falarmos um bocadinho mais na língua franca do negócio em inglês. What's the first thing that we need to be aware when we talk about cybersecurity? And it's not just about cybersecurity, it's the technology in general. It changes. The only constant is the constant change. So we need to take a look at the changing landscape of cybersecurity. And we need to understand what is happening and adapt our environment, our defenses to what's happening on the offensive side, on who wants to come into our organization. We need to understand ransomware is still rampant. It's still the most dangerous threat to our business. And not only that, it continues to grow every year, 25% in 22, accounting for about 2/3 of all the malware that exists out there. Another emerging trend in terms of the attacks is the supply chain attacks. The supply chain attacks, probably the most famous one was the SolarWinds that affected in the United States a number of private organizations as well as public. It affected even the Pentagon and very military and governmental associations in the United States. And this is now accounting for about 40% of the attacks. Because in our world we are continuing to do the cloud migration, I can't talk to any organization that is either on the cloud already or, yes, I have this big cloud migration. Cloud-based security threats are increasing all the time. We are now accounting for about 45% of the breaches that are causing from your cloud environment. And the cloud, because it's still a new technology, it needs to deal with not just with the attacks that exploit technical vulnerabilities in your environment, but also misconfigurations. Because it's still new, IT teams are still adapting and evolving to understand how to configure the cloud to better protect us. So cloud-based security threats are on the ascendancy in something that you absolutely need to take into account when you are doing your cloud migration projects. And we cannot talk today about technology or cybersecurity without talking about AI. The rise of AI is upon us. Ignore everybody that's creating open letters saying, let's stop the development of AI. It's not going to happen. The Pandora's box has been opened and it's here, increasing the productivity of organizations, but also increasing the productivity and effectiveness of the attackers. The scripty kids, those kids with not too many technical knowledge that just run a script to attack your organization, they are using AI now. They spend their days in ChatGPT trying to figure out how to create better and most efficient attacks. It is estimated that using AI and ChatGPT and other technologies, the effectiveness and the impact, the damage caused by these attacks are increasing by 57%. Then another vector that tends to be ignored is IoT. About half of the IT departments will confess, if you don't name them, will confess, I don't know how many devices I have connected with my network. Any employee comes into the office with 3, 4, 5 devices, and there's the thermostat, there's the vending machine. It's out of control. We need to take a look at this because this is creating a lot of attacks. They come, they compromise the devices on your network, and then they move laterally within your network. So we need to take a look at this changing of the landscape of cybersecurity that is always adapting. It's always evolving. So how do you deal with a threat and attackers that are always evolving, always adapting? You cannot stand still. Unfortunately, organizations, especially large organizations, tend to be static, do not adapt. They use the same procedures. We cannot do this. So to face the evolving cyber threats, we need to be constantly improving our environment. And we need to start at the basics. Number one, vulnerability assessments. You need a very good program to analyze your vulnerabilities, scan your vulnerabilities, identify, enumerate all the vulnerabilities in your system, prioritize, and fix it. That is the basics. I always tell a story about 2 people being chased by a bear. And one of them is smiling, and the other one asks them, "Why are you smiling?" "I run faster than you." Don't be the person that is going to be eaten by the bear. So fix your environment, and the attackers will find the one that runs the slower. It's just like walking down Avenida da Liberdade and checking which car has the door open. They will attack that car. Close the doors, look at your vulnerability assessments, but don't do only that. Penetration testing is mandatory in this environment. You have to constantly test your environment. Create red teams to attack and simulate cyber attacks on your environment to figure out what are the vulnerabilities that you have, how can you penetrate your environment. So doing penetration tests is absolutely mandatory to go beyond just knowing and patching your environment. Put yourselves in the shoes of the attacker and execute the penetration testing. And this tends to be at the lower levels in your organization. It's the technical people. But cybersecurity is the job and the responsibility of everybody. All the people at the bottom, all the workers, but also all the executives. Bring the executives into your cybersecurity program by creating a tabletop exercise. Exercise the response of all the executives, all the departments in your company. Cyber is not just for IT and the technical teams. You need to bring in your legal department, your marketing department, your communication department. Everybody needs to come to the table, do the table exercise, and so that they know when and how to react when the real thing comes along. Because doing a cyber attack, it's very important for your organization to effectively respond, not just from a technical perspective, but from a news, media, TV, how do we position ourselves in the public space? And this leads to a constant update of your cybersecurity program, all of your controls, constantly adapting. You collect the information from your vulnerability assessments all the way down to your penetration testing and tabletop exercises, and you constantly update your program, and you align it to your budget and to your board and the business leaders in the organization. This is very important. One of the cardinal sins of CISOs and CIOs in the marketplace is ineffective in the communication with the business leadership. You need to talk to the business in the language of the business. The language of the business is money and numbers. Don't kid yourselves. That's the only thing that organizations, CEOs, and boards care about. How are my numbers looking like, and how is my budget looking like? So CIOs and CISOs, they need to translate all the technical jargon in simple numbers, simple tables that you can understand. I used to go in the hallways of my public company, and the CEO would stop me and say, "Rodrigo, how are we doing?" And I wouldn't say, "Oh, we're doing okay. Oh, so-so." No, I would say, "Hey, we're good. We're at 8.6. But there is a department that is doing a 5.0. Who is that department? What are they doing wrong?" I'm going to talk to the lead of that department. Very important, quantify your risk, quantify the maturity of your program, justify to the CEO and to the board the business case of security. Security is a risk. It's a business risk. But you need to bring it to the language that the CEO understands. And the CEO understands numbers. CEO understands money. So you need to bring security in terms of how much money am I going to save, or how much money am I going to avoid in liabilities and risk. So this is this evolving threat of security. You constantly adapt your budget and your program, and you translate it into numbers that you can communicate with your board and your CEO. You align the technology to the business. And because I spent 2 decades in consulting, but I also spent more than a decade as a practitioner. I was a C-level executive. I was a CIO, I was a CTO, I was a CISO. I know that this approach works. This approach works when you are able to quantify and justify the budget. Everybody was very jealous at me in my company because said, "Hey, Rodrigo, the CEO gives you all the money you ask. How do you do it?" This is how I did it. I have a security scorecard that I present every month to the executives and to the board. It tells me for each country what are we doing well and what are we doing wrong. If you're doing it wrong, if you're doing poorly, show it. But show it, I'm improving. And to improve more, I need more money. Quick wins show that the money, the investment, is going into the right place, that you are trending in the right direction. You are improving your cybersecurity. Define the goals of your organization. Hey, we are 2.1 in security maturity today. We need to be at 3.1 because our competitors are better than us. The other guys run faster than you do. Don't let it happen. So create this language, create accountability within your organization, and no matter how complex, how different your organization looks like, you will succeed. Create that interoperability between the different departments, all the technologies that you have, into numbers that the CEO and the board can understand. So, what are the takeaways today? Embrace this continuous change. Embrace the continuous risk management through vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, tabletop exercises. Do them within your organization or work with IT services providers to implement those exercises, those tabletops. Foster the collaboration between your technology departments and your compliance departments. Very important to keep up to date with the NIST and all the regulations within your country, the ones that apply to your industry. And adapt. Your attackers, your adversaries, and your competitors are adapting. Don't fall behind. Standing still is actually going backward. So always continue adapting and improving. And this is the message that I had for you all today. I will be here for the rest of the day. I'll be here with my good friends from InnoWave, who represent our products and services here in Portugal and US. They have a fabulous team that can create those penetration testing, those tabletop exercises, those vulnerability assessments. Know yourself, know your weaknesses, and you're going to be the one that runs faster than your competitors. They will eat them and not you. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.